Okay, we are now live for Tech Talks, and we actually have a few people joining us this time, so that's awesome. And we'll see if we get any viewers on the YouTube broadcast right now, but if we do have any viewers on the YouTube broadcast, you can also participate through the live chat on there, and I'll keep an eye on that. All right, Vanessa, take it away.
All right, we will go ahead and get started. Good afternoon, everyone. Hello, and welcome to eLearning's Tech Talks. My name is Vanessa Botts, and I am an instructional designer with eLearning. And I'm joined today by Ben and Caleb, also instructional designers with eLearning. Today's topic is going to be tabs to organize your course content. In this Tech Talk, which will last about 10 to 15 minutes, and then we'll stay behind for any questions and just to have a conversation if you'd like to join us for that. We are going to explore again how to tidy up your course pages, and you can also tidy up your course modules really with tabs. And I will show you how to use and where to find the HTML code. And it sounds a lot fancier than it is. It's quite simple. Hopefully you'll agree with me when I show you. So you can copy and create those tabs. So what I'd like to do now is I'm going to show you first one page of content without tabs. And then later I'm going to show you the same page with the same absolute content with tabs. So if you will take a moment, this is one, excuse me, content page in Canvas. So just go ahead and take a look at what's in here, and I'll have to scroll down in just a minute so you can see all that's there. So notice here the numbering system, and notice the tasks that students are asked to complete, which include, as I said, the embed of a video, as well as the embed of a Quizlet for practice. This is for a sample Spanish course. Now, thinking about it from a student's point of view, just think what some of the pitfalls might be when a student encounters a page such as this one. You're welcome to share by unmuting your microphone via chat, or you don't have to at all. Just kind of think about it and keep it in mind when we do the next one.
So one thing that I notice from kind of my graphic designer perspective is when you've got different kinds of elements all in a row like this, so you've got a video, and then you've got text, and then you've got the Quizlet, visually that can get confusing and it can be easy to get lost in a task, especially if things are like different sizes. So, you have a video that's this size, you've got text that's this size, you've got Quizlet that's this size, and that can kind of throw you off when you're trying to cover something. I mean, this isn't even a very complicated page. It's pretty short, but if there was a much larger group of content, then that could become even more of a problem.
For sure. Thank you for sharing. So it's quite possible, and actually quite likely, that the students are going to get lost in this content just because of the visual layout. So they are not going to maybe do the reading because they can't find it. They scroll past it or whatever it is. So now let me show you the absolute exact same content, but with tabs so you can see what it looks like. So notice here, this is the module overview, and if you noticed in the other one, the tasks that students will do are numbered. So that's the same thing here. The links are here as well in case they want to access them through here, and also the module objective, which I didn't mention last time, but it was part of the page, and I even missed it. It was right at the bottom. And also notice here that it does prompt the students to click on the watch, read and vocabulary builder tabs, because it is quite common that the students, since they're not used to accessing tabs via Canvas, or if they're just new to Canvas, so we want to prompt them to do that. But look at the difference here. Watch the videos right there. They already knew that they were going to watch a video and what that video was about, although you can add some text here if you'd like as well. Then for the read, again, reiterating the instructions, and there's a link. And lastly, vocabulary builder, the activity. And notice how much better this looks when they can add that embedded Quizlet within its own tab. It just cleans it up quite nicely. So if you'd like to share kind of the differences that you've noticed, or how much simpler or not it might be to go from no tabs to tabbing, go ahead and unmute yourself or share via chat. And right after that, I will show you how to create these tabs.
So Vanessa, what are the accessibility issues with tabs?
There are no accessibility issues other than when you perhaps use an external tool such as Quizlet, which would have been the case even without the tabs. And if Ben, if you know any different, there shouldn't be any accessibility issues, because Canvas is going to recognize this just like the regular text that you would normally put in.
So the screen reader, the text says click on these things. The screen reader is going to alert.
The screen reader can read the HTML5 or the HTML that's dictating that it's tabs. We've been testing this with a statewide project, and so far so good as far as using tabs for instruction when it comes to accessibility.
So I think that when we're talking about like a screen reader tool, what the screen reader will do is it will treat the whole thing as if it were a linear top to bottom document. So it's going to read out loud everything that's in that module overview section. And then it's going to read out loud everything that's in the watch section, or in this case, it's going to tell them that there's video content there. And then it'll tell them
children
that, and then it'll tell them what's in the read section, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm pretty sure that's how a screen reader handles content like this, is it'll just treat it like it's a single document.
Thank you for the question, and thank you, Ben and Caleb, for sharing what you know. So if there's nothing else, and if there is, we can definitely stay back a little bit to talk further about it. But I would like to now show you the step by step. And we'll go quite fast with this because of time constraints. However, at the end of the Tech Talk, I will share the link to the course where you can find the step-by-step instructions. You can find the HTML code that I'm going to show you shortly, as well as the slides for this presentation. And the slides do have clickable links for additional resources. So in Canvas, you are going to either create a new or choose an existing content area. As long as it's got a text editor box, you will use it. So it could be an assignment, it could be a page, a discussion, and so on. Then, as you would normally do to populate it, you would click on the content area title, and then you click on edit. Now, this is key right here. Once you're in the edit stage of the Canvas content area, you must click HTML editor. Otherwise, it will absolutely not work. Then what's going to happen is the following. And again, you will have access to this code with a link that I will share with you shortly. You are going to copy and paste this entire code. You're going to copy it from here, and then you're going to paste it onto the text box under the HTML editor mode. Now, once you do that, you will notice, and it's highlighted here. It won't be highlighted when you copy and paste it, but it's typically in caps. It says put title for tab here. And this is, as you might imagine, tab 1, tab 2, tab 3. So that's the little tabs up here. Those are those titles right here, the module overview, the watch, the read and vocabulary builder, and obviously you put whatever text indicates the content that they will be accessing. Then you are going to edit the content for each of those tabs. It is really important that you stay within these little carrots, these little plus or greater than, less than kind of triangles, because if not, you could break the tab and it will mess the formatting, and then you may just have to recopy it again. So in between here where it says put the content for the third tab here, that is where you're going to place the content for that specific tab area. This you can certainly do in the text editor mode. Okay, and let me show you kind of an example of what that might look like. However, when you do that, let's say we are right here. When you do that, let's pretend we are in the edit mode, and you will see tab, put your tab title here. Make sure that you do not extend that highlight, because if you do, let's say if this allowed me to, it's not allowing me to because we're not in edit, but if I extended that highlighting, we might break that tab. And if you try this and you have any issues, please do let us know and we can help you with those. And let's say that you want to add more tabs. You don't need 3, you want 4, you want 5, or you want to delete a tab. You would highlight one of them. Let's start with copying and adding a 4th tab. So you need to add the first part of that code. You copy it, you paste it right underneath it, keeping in mind that now you have to change this number here to a 4 or a 5 or however many it is to indicate that that's the 4th or 5th tab. Otherwise, they're all going to kind of blend together. That's for the tab title. And then you will do the same thing for the content. You're going to copy one of these. You're going to paste it here, and you are going to make sure to change that number. 1, 2, 3, 4 tabs, and as many tabs as you need. Obviously, for space purposes, you probably don't want to go beyond 4 or maybe 5 tabs. Then, most important of all, you must click save, or you will not have saved and you will have lost all that hard work that you did in creating the tabs. So this concludes my portion of the Tech Talks on tabs for cleaning up a course on Canvas. And like I said, I will now share via the chat the course where you can access the HTML code and the slides for this. And if you can see the HTML code is here, you would simply copy it from here. You can do Control-C or right-click copy and whatever it is. And then in your modules, the content area, edit HTML editor, and populate it there. So I will do that in just a moment. And I would like to encourage you to join us next week for another tech talk that Ben will be facilitating on HP5, which is a neat, quite simple tool to create interactive activities that you can embed into your Canvas course. And Ben, while I am putting in that link into the chat, I don't know if you wanted to share a little bit about H5P or anything else.
Yeah, sure. We can talk about H5P, but I wanted to point out a little bit about this tool, the tabs. Often I get, a faculty member that will say, okay, just a page exactly like what you'd submitted, the page without tabs, where the content's kind of right there in line in a linear fashion. But if you look at that, it really emphasizes the video in that Quizlet, and the reading is lost. And so faculty will say, hey, my students aren't reading the text. It's very obvious from the quiz. And when you look at a page, well, it's very obvious that it's not intentionally, obviously, but it's de-emphasized amongst the video in the Quizlet. And so while that Quizlet is a quick practice, it may not even really be very important for your students, where you value that reading. What that does is, these tabs really help pace the student through it and give the correct emphasis to the different parts that you want them to accomplish. So I think that's a cool suggestion, Vanessa, and I'll use that working with faculty going out from here on out. That's great.
Absolutely. Thank you. And faculty that have done tabs on their courses truly do feel it's a game changer for their course as far as being more user-friendly for the students and get them to access the information that you feel is most important for them with the use of tabs and just to navigate the course.
Well, it's also useful if you want to include like your own annotations to go with some of those resources. So the way the module system in Canvas works is, you can add a page or a link or a video, but you can't really add like a comment or an annotation with each thing, which in my mind is kind of a limitation. Some LMSs do let you kind of annotate each item. But if you use the tab system instead, then you just have the one content page in that module, and then you can add your own annotations within that. So if you have a video, but you only want them to watch the first 10 minutes of the video, then you can say that as a little comment underneath the video. Or if you want to, have an annotation with 3 or 4 reading assignments, then you can add your note in there. And I think it's just an easier way to display that information compared to just having it all on one page, or having all those things broken up in the module without any additional annotation, which is a limitation.
And then maybe the first thing you do in the quarter is say, hey, this is how I build my pages.
Yeah, because not everybody does that. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and again, do keep in mind that you do want to prompt them to click on the tabs, because that is one major concern, and it is true that students will often overlook the fact that there are tabs with contents that they need to access. Yeah. So I believe that we will stick around for a few more minutes if you'd like any other help on this, or have any comments or any resources to share. Those of you that have to go, thank you for joining us. We really appreciate you coming in today. Hopefully you grabbed the course link from the chat, and you can access this and many other resources in our Tech Talks course. So have a great afternoon. And again, we'll stick around for a few minutes for those who want to chat.
So Vanessa, I saw that Beverly had a question. Once you created a tab like this, can you use the regular normal editor to edit each of those tabs? Or what does it look like if you click edit right now?
You can. And this is what I was talking about earlier. You've got to be really careful that you stay here within where the text begins and the text or characters end. So don't stray too far and do something like this, because that might mess up the code. So just do it little by little. And so this is your typical text editor box, or if you feel comfortable and brave enough, you can do it through here as well. And if you see here, that is my tab title 1. So notice it's between those little carets. Here is my tab title 2, and so on. I have very sticky fingers, so I like to do it in HTML, but you can also do it in what's called the rich content editor.
Okay, so in the rich content editor, it does just show it in a linear, in a row.
That is correct.
Which is actually kind of helpful, because that is what somebody with a screen reader, that is how the information is going to be presented to them, is in that order. So that might be worth looking at that and making sure that it still flows coherently enough.
And one thing to point out is the tabs don't translate over in the app either. So students are going to see that in that linear format as well. And so the module overview, watch, read, vocabulary builder, those are kind of like hyperlinks that take you to different anchors throughout that page to that next section. But the students are just going to scroll. They don't have to deal with the tabs.
Gotcha. That's good to know.
Yes, Ursula?
I have a question. So you just said you can do it in the HTML page. You can create tabs in that page? Or you were saying, no, you just have the different format. They'll be hyperlinks.
What you can do here, I'm in the HTML editor right now, is whatever I do in the rich content text editor, I can do here. The only thing you have to do here is copy the entire code in the HTML editor. Once you're there, you can choose whether, let's say it says, you know, put in your tab title 1 here. And then I go in here, I highlight that, and then I start typing module overview. So I can do that here, or I could also do it here, just being
Okay.
very careful not to extend too far.
Okay.
And like Ben said, don't be afraid of the code, because you know, if something happens and you can't figure out what the problem is, talk to us and we can help you figure it out. Usually it is just you're missing a bracket or something like that, in my experience. And as soon as you find it and you fix it, then everything is back to normal. So there's not really much you can seriously break that we can't help you fix.
Absolutely. Yes.
So I have another question. So what is the greatest benefit of adding those tabs?
It's the user friendliness, navigation of the course. And also when students see something like this, number one, they're bound to miss something, but oftentimes, and as Caleb mentioned earlier, they're longer pages than this, they get overwhelmed. Just visually, they get overwhelmed with what they need to do. When we break it down, as you can see visually, it's more of a restful space. Oh, okay, here is the list. Oh, let me go, you know, tab by tab, and it just makes it more manageable.
I'm asking that because I'm teaching this, you know, I'm teaching live online. It's also recorded and have students in the classroom. And so this is the first quarter I do this, and I have this challenge, or at least I think I have that challenge, that the students who are online asynchronously, that they have a similar class experience and do the work as well, and cannot really bypass too many of the class recordings. And I constantly look for integration. So I'm wondering if this is something that I can use, but I haven't wrapped my brain around it.
Well, so it's a little bit like the concept of chunking in a lecture, where rather than having a 45-minute stream of consciousness lecture, you're intentionally chunking it into smaller, discrete units of content or concepts or material. This is kind of doing the same thing in an online format, isn't it?
Well, that was my question. Is it like, because, you know, of course, I'm sure my pages are way too long, but, you know, as I type out my notes and I use the, like, this is header, you know, to try and help for someone who has a screen reader, right? Where you're talking about the three main concepts that I'm trying to go to, right? So each one of those is going to have a header. And I'm thinking what you're really saying here is those tabs would be the same things as I would chunk under a header, correct? I mean, that would be one way to kind of think about this.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That's a great way to do it. And the word, like Caleb used, it is chunking. We're just making it more manageable so they know, you know, step by step what it is they're going to do, and they're not overwhelmed and they don't overlook anything, just visually. And I think psychologically as well, it makes it so much better for the student experience.
So I agree. It's a much better organizational tool, but I have so much trouble just getting my students to click the next button to not skip over items in a module that this makes me really nervous. They won't go to each tab.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you can prompt them here, but I think it's the same in whatever organizational structure that you use. They're either going to do it or not. But if we're explicit about the expectation, hopefully they will access all the content however we present it to them. Just here, there's a lesser of a chance of them getting lost in the content.
What does analytics do with this? Does it recognize the tabs so that you can see how many students are looking at each tab?
I suspect not.
No, it's just going to treat this as one page.
I mean, that's a bigger question, right? Of how do you get your students to actually engage with all of the content that you want them to engage with? And Ursula's nodding her head because I know you're dealing with this, or you're trying to find solutions.
That's basically my question. Thank you. You articulated it.
And I mean, there are certain things you can try to do to force them to look at it, you know, using release conditions where they can't access the next thing until they've accessed the previous thing. But those are really, I don't think I would say dangerous, but those sometimes don't work out the way you want them to. And sometimes you end up with students that fall further behind rather than staying caught up because, you know, they miss one release condition and then suddenly they can't see anything else. I don't know that there's like one right answer to this, and Ben and Vanessa, feel free to chime in, but sometimes I think it is just a matter of how are you structuring your assignments or your assessments to make sure that it integrates all that material. So, you know, you might have a discussion prompt saying, based on the video you watched, answer these questions. Well, technically, yes, a student can skip over that video and just try to BS their way through the discussion, but it's going to be very clear that they haven't actually watched the video. Whereas if they have watched the video, then it should be easy for them to answer those questions and to connect with that discussion. So sometimes I think it's just a matter of, are you using your assessment tools in a way that ensures the students are engaging with the content? That's not always easy. Sometimes that can be a real challenge, but that's one way of kind of thinking about that problem. Ben, Vanessa, what do you think?
I think that's a simple way of saying it, because that's the million-dollar question. And, you know, we could have a whole series for our lifetime on how to solve that, but every course is going to be unique. But really coming back down to the assessment, I mean, that's a good way of stating that, Caleb.
All right. Are there any other questions? Again, we'll stick around for a few more minutes. Thank you if you stayed this far, and I hope this has been helpful. Again, please let us know if you need any help with tabs or anything else related to your course design or building your course or anything else related to e-learning. And I do hope you will join us next week.
Wait, are we doing it next week or are we doing it the week after that?
Oh, sorry. Next week is Thanksgiving, December 1st.
Yes.
Thank you. Good catch.
Otherwise, Ben would have his presentation all ready to go. And
yeah, Vanessa asked me for a lead-in for something I haven't even thought about yet. So that's why I changed the subject there.
That's 12 days away. Strategy. I'm not even going to start thinking about that until at least next Friday.
Absolutely.
But do join us for HP5 December 1st. It is really, I find it quite simple and really a neat addition to a course for interactivity and engagement.
Absolutely.
Can one of you give like the 10-second explanation of what HP5 is and why people should care?
Yeah, well, I can try. So it's H5P.
H5P, yeah.
Yeah, and it's a third-party resource that you can create artifacts in your course that can create kind of a little more richer, engaging, interactive assessments. I think it works really well for formative assessment, student feedback, and there's a variety of different ways to do that. So depending on what you're teaching, there's different ways to do that, whether it's a multiple choice quiz that you can embed in Canvas. There can be like picture alignments where you order things that are going to be in a linear way. You know, and it's all interactive, click and drag, and most of it's pretty accessible too. So that's a good reason of really promoting it and supporting it. So there's a wide variety of different activities to kind of make some cool, rich learning experiences. I need to work on my elevator pitch, but that's pretty close.
Cool. I've looked at it, but I haven't really played with it yet. So I'm kind of looking forward to seeing this too.
One thing that it has tons of potential that we're like set up to do is branching scenarios. And you can do like interactive video with branching scenarios. So they have a really cool example I'll show in December of, it was like a healthcare worker who does in-home visits. And so she gets there and it's trying to present a situation of it's like a safety training on when is that healthcare worker unaware of or when is she, like, what are signs that she needs to remove herself from the home because of safety concerns? And so it goes by a scenario, and the students have choices to make. And so if a student chooses, I should stay because of this, it presents a new scenario. And so it's a really cool, engaging, you know, experience that you can't really do any other way. And so there's some potential there for our department to serve our faculty that way as well.
Awesome. Yeah, I definitely want to see that. I have wanted to make a Choose Your Own Adventure course for as long as I've been in higher education. But yeah, the tools in Canvas or in other LMSs are a little bit limited in what you can do with that. So I definitely want to see that.
I have a question about your shell. The Tech Talks shell, it doesn't show up in my list of courses. You know, like your e-learning faculty development, that's automatically there.
We'll invite you, Ursula.
Cool.
Can you
Well,
invite me as well?
If it's published, Vanessa, you could probably just copy and paste that course link right into the chat.
I did. Yeah, it's in the chat, so I'm wondering
is,
why
yeah.
it's not appearing.
Well, no, it does. It appears. My problem is that I can't, it's not in my, like, on my dashboard or somewhere so that I could go back and refer to it without having to continue to find that link. So the question is how do we get it to show up in our dashboard?
Bear with me.
I think Ben's gonna make it so you can just join the class and it shows up in your, oh, there we go. Yeah, enrollment
So
link.
I just pasted the enroll link.
So click on that link, click the blue button that says enroll in course, and then it just shows up in your list of courses forever.
And I don't really know the vision of this course. Maybe Vanessa can clear it up, but I think we're just going to be throwing tons of examples in there, things that you can maybe reference later. So if you need that HTML code, you know, in a month or during Christmas break, when you come back and you want to use that, it should be there and available for you.
Yes. So basically what I'm doing so far, it's the slides that I've shown with the clickable links to those resources. You're going to see sample pages. And then, for example, for this one, you'll see the HTML code that you can copy and paste. And then those step-by-step tutorials that I kind of breezed through, you'll have them there for your reference, and you can print them. You can share them with whomever. So they're free for you to use. Last time we did slides. So if you wanted to access, icons. So if you want to access the icons and how to embed them into your course. So that's kind of a repository of whatever we discussed in the Tech Talks.
Cool.
Oh, can I ask you something? Do you guys know that Adobe Reader is not available to students anymore beyond the trial period? Has something changed?
Adobe
No?
Reader or Adobe Pro?
The Reader.
That's a surprise to me.
Yeah, to me too.
And it might not be true. One student struggled, and I actually contacted IT, and they said the student can download this here, but the student did download and then mentioned that there's a time limit on that too, but I'm not certain that that's actually true. So you haven't heard anything?
No, that makes me think that maybe the student accidentally downloaded Acrobat Reader Pro, which is the version that lets you edit and modify PDF and add fillable forms and do things to it.
Yeah.
But just the plain Reader should always be free. That's why you can just search for Adobe PDF Reader, and the first thing that comes up is the download page.
Yeah, free download. Yeah, exactly.
That just makes me think that maybe they accidentally installed the Pro version, and then yes, that one's a paid product, so it would give you a trial, but then you have to pay for it.
Okay. Last spring, that whole Adobe suite was free.
Yeah, so yeah, they made the whole Creative Suite free for like during the lockdown period. But
so if they installed it last spring, they probably still have Acrobat Pro that's now it's a subscription that's, you know, in control, and Reader is not. I don't know how else to describe it. So they probably need to uninstall that suite.
Oh yeah, that you might be exactly right about that. So
that's what it is. Thank you, Susan. Yeah.
Good call.
So I have a question not related to this. Do any of you use Perusall?
Perusall.
Perusall. So I just
No.
came from another webinar
Okay.
into this one. And I know I'm down here in Pullman, and at WSU, I've talked to people in the English department, and they're using it all the time. It's a annotation tool. So they set up assignments.
Okay, yeah, I have seen this. I've never really used it, but I have seen it
Art
used before.
historians. So they were posting images, and then they have students annotate the images, and the people in the English department I've talked to, they're having them look at articles, and then they engage in what sounds to me like a discussion board, but it's in this tool perusal.
Yeah, I have seen that before now that you mentioned it.
I don't know why it's so much better than, having a discussion board about it, but I just keep hearing about it. So I wondered, as instructional designers, what the inside story is.
We'll look into it. I had not heard of it, but I'll look into it and see what it's about.
Yeah,
So-
I'd be interested in your thoughts about it. I have no idea what the subscription model is or anything. I just keep hearing about it. It sounds interesting.
So I only have a limited understanding. After I had to do a Google search to remind myself of what it was, but I have seen this used before. My understanding, and this is a very limited understanding because I haven't done a lot of work with it yet. I think it makes Ursula left. I think I could see the value in it in like a literature class or any kind of class where you're doing a close reading on one particular text, where you really want students to spend the time engaging with the text and maybe saying, this paragraph really jumped out at me, or, oh, this citation, I went and looked at that, and this is what I thought about what they're referencing. That is just kind of my first glance thought, that it makes a lot of sense for a course that does that kind of work. I don't know that it would be any better for more of a general course where you have a textbook or a bunch of content that you're looking at, or an overview of a topic, and then you want to do a more of a normal traditional discussion board. I don't know if Perusall would be super helpful for that kind of situation, but I see it as being really helpful for like that deep reading kind of activity.
Yeah, the course that was redesigned at WSU that's using it is a 402, which is a technical writing course.
Okay.
So I don't know I don't know how they're using it, but I heard a bunch of colleagues talking about it, and I thought, well, they're doing looking at articles. I haven't looked at it at all. I just wondered if you'd heard of it and what the inside story was.
Well, so from what I understand with it, basically you as the instructor provide the text that you want students to look at. It could be a journal article or a PDF or something like that. You upload it through Perusall, and then you give that to your students. They get into Perusall, they read the document, and then they can add comments or annotations anywhere they want, and they can see each other's annotations and comments. They can reply to each other.
And it must have some grading tool too.
That I don't know. I don't know what kind of assessment tool it has. I don't know how it integrates into Canvas. So that's a good question.
But they were discussing grading in Perusall. So I'm assuming how it integrates with, but of course, WSU hasn't made the switch. They have Canvas available, but they're running Blackboard concurrently until everybody switches. So it could be integration with Blackboard. I don't really know.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, we'll have to put it on the list. Maybe that can be a topic we cover in the near future.
Great. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks for suggesting it.
Yeah, thank you for these sessions. Thank you, Vanessa. I edit in HTML all the time, so.
Oh, good.
For me.
Susan knows what she's doing. She's an HTML pro.
Well, I sticky fingers. Every time I try and copy and paste, I carry too much and I have to go into the HTML anyhow. So.
Same like me.
Yeah. When you said sticky fingers, it's like, oh yeah. I'll carry the beginning of that, bullet list carrot. And it's like, what happened here?
Exactly.
So thank you. Thanks very much.
Thank you for joining us.
Bye-bye.
All right,
Bye.
see you
Have a
later.
good day.
Thanks, Vanessa.
Thank you. See you.